For the second time this year, one of the two teams that I will be previewing is Pittsburg State, but it's not going to be the main focus of this episode because we got GVSU, Pittsburg State in a matchup of both teams that were really highly ranked going into the preseason. GVSU now 2-0, number 3 in the country. Pittsburg State 0-2, but also coming off probably the most difficult schedule, one of the most difficult schedules in the entire country. 0-2 going up against number 1 Ferris, number 19 as well. Now they got number 3 GVSU at home in a matchup against a really, really high-powered offense in GVSU. And it really starts out with their quarterback in Andrew Schuster. He's been absolutely phenomenal this year. There's some crazy stats to go along with that. 642 yards through 2 games, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception. That in itself is crazy, but it even gets crazier because he's been completing 73.5% of his passes through 2 games. That is almost unheard of. He's been so accurate when he ever had to throw the ball. He's been great. He's been taking care of the ball. 1 interception this year, and it's truly him that's leading this offense, but he has a couple of guys to really throw it to that are really key contributors. If you look at this team overall, they actually have 4 pass catchers that have over 100 yards on the year, which obviously does help your quarterback, but also means these guys are weapons. Like Andrew Schuster is surrounded by guys that are extremely talented. You have guys like Kellen Reed. You have guys like Lynn Wichiel. You also have guys like Sean Bird and Donovan Johnson. All 4 of those guys have over 100 yards. Now, Kellen and Lynn are their main 2 wide receivers, but Sean and Donovan really aren't super far behind them at all. And when you have those types of wide receivers, it really truly helps with obviously running the ball, putting up points in. You want to talk about a guy that runs the ball extremely hard. You really have to focus on Sion Usa Harper. Sorry if I completely botched your name. He's their leading running back. Most yards, most carries, but they've gotten other running backs to the ball. They've also gotten other quarterbacks running the ball as well, like Brady Drogash. They also have gotten some wide receivers involved, like Kellen Reed has had, I believe, 2 carries this year. It's really been an offense full of playmakers that have just caused teams issues. And it's not only through the air attack, it's running the ball as well. I believe it's about 1 or 2 yard difference between the average that they run the ball versus pass the ball. So it's not just one area that this GVSU team excels at. It's both areas, and that's what really makes this GVSU offense that much better than this Pittsburg State offense. And it's an offense for Pittsburg State that obviously they're going up against some of the best competition in the country. They've only averaged about 20 points a game. I did talk about in past episodes, previews, the one especially against Ferris State, of how scoring was always an issue for Pittsburg State. And it truly seems like that's going to be another issue again for this year. Now, obviously, with the schedule that they have, they're going to be facing really good teams, so maybe it's a little bit better. But you have guys like Jackson Berry, Clio Jr., you have Karan Pershman as well. Those are their 3 main guys. Now, when you talk about Jackson Berry, he's a guy that is able to run a little bit, but he only has 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and only completing 51% of his passes this year. It needs to be better at that starting quarterback position in order to obviously get better offensively. You also have a guy in Grayson Holbert that has the most receptions and second in yards this year as well, so he's someone that's really going to have to keep an eye on for. But if you really look at the offenses for both teams, I feel like you are a lot more comfortable looking at what GVSU have and the playmakers that they have compared to what Pittsburg State has. Now, obviously, this game is at Pittsburg State, so it's going to be a home environment for them, which might obviously help them out, especially offensively, especially when it comes to defense as well. And this is a defense for Pittsburg State that has forced some turnovers on the year, and one guy to really keep an eye on for that, especially because of that, is Jordan Rogers. He actually has 2 interceptions. Now, the team does have 2 forced fumbles and recovered one of them, but Jordan Rogers is going to be that guy defensively that I think if you're GVSU, you're going to want to kind of keep an eye on, especially when throwing the ball. But then you go on the other side of the defense for GVSU. they've put up an average of 22.5 points a game allowed. You have a guy like Anthony Caramone as a leading tackler. Sorry if I completely botched your name. I'm not the greatest at names. And then you have Josh Anthony, Jimmy Downs as well, two guys to kind of keep an eye on for. This defense has done a really good job of forcing turnovers, though. They have 4 interceptions through 2 games, 2 fumbles as well. That's really the calling card of this defense, is forcing turnovers. And if they continue to do that against a offense that has committed some turnovers, I think this is going to be a game that's going to be really difficult for Pittsburg State to win at home. And that's why I have GVSU winning this game. I think GVSU, if you look at the talent overall, has a better team. Obviously, going on the road and playing is not always the easiest. It doesn't always lead to the right results for that team. But I truly think in this game, in this term, that this GVSU team has too much offensively and that there's too much still questions about this Pittsburg State team that we've seen against top opponents really struggle offensively to put up over 20 points. I think because of that, I think there's just too much for this GVSU team with Andrew Schuster, with Kellen Reed, with Lynn Wechiel, with Sion Usma Harper. I think there's too much offensively for this Pittsburg State team to handle. So that's why I think GVSU ends up winning this game. I think it's going to be maybe a little bit closer than people think it might be, just because I think there is still a ton of talent on this Pittsburg State team. But when you're so battle-tested, especially early on in the year, you're really looking for that first win against one of these top opponents. There's a real possibility Pittsburg State can get that here. I just don't think that's the case, and I think this is going to be another one of those games that Pittsburg State comes out wondering if they should have won this game, and I think the answer to that question is probably not. I just think that this GVSU team is going to go into Pitt and end up getting the win pretty comfortably. Maybe not as much of a blowout, but pretty comfortably. So, yeah, what do you think of my predictions? Do you agree with it? Disagree with it? Let me know in the comments. I think this GVSU team is absolutely legit. That's why they're number 3 in the country. That's why they were projected second in the GLIAC. And the only reason why they weren't projected first is you have the number 1 team in the country, which obviously, once that matchup comes down the road, I will be really excited to talk about that. But, yeah, expect GVSU to start 3-0 on the year, continuing down the track until we get to GLIAC play, which when that comes, I'll preview and do a recap there. But, yeah, that's the preview for this episode. I'll absolutely do a recap for this game, talk about what happened, why one team won, why one team lost. And, yeah, hopefully you enjoy this and tune in to the next recap and preview.